We all think we know the story of Jonah and the whale, but do we really? This ancient tale is about so much more than a guy getting swallowed by a fish. It's a wild story about a prophet who runs away from his mission, and it makes you ask a really tough question. What happens when our idea of justice completely clashes with God's idea of mercy?
This right here is the question that kicks the whole thing off. We usually think of a prophet as this loyal messenger, right? Someone who speaks for God, no questions asked. But Jonah? Nope, not him. His story begins with him flat out refusing a direct order. And honestly, that's what makes it so memorable.
So, the story opens with a command straight from God. He speaks directly to our main character, Jonah, and gives him a mission. The instructions are crystal clear, and the destination is one of the most notorious cities in the ancient world. And here it is, the core conflict, plain as day. God says, go east to Nineveh, a place known for its wickedness. And what does Jonah do? He immediately books a ticket on a ship headed west to Tarshish, literally the opposite end of the known world. This isn't just dragging his feet, it's a full-on sprint in the other direction. Yeah, as you can probably guess, trying to run from the being who created the sea while you're on the sea, that's not going to end well. Jonah's very personal choice is about to cause some very public and very dangerous problems for everybody else on that boat.
And wow, the fallout is immediate and absolutely terrifying. A massive, unnatural storm just swallows the ship, and it's so violent the boat is literally on the verge of breaking apart. The text makes it very clear this isn't just a bit of bad luck. This is a direct answer to Jonah's disobedience.
So the sailors are understandably freaking out. They're doing everything they can think of, praying to their gods, chucking precious cargo overboard to lighten the load. And where's Jonah in all this chaos? He's asleep. Can you believe it? So their last resort is to cast lots, kind of like drawing straws to see whose fault this is. And, well, guess who it lands on?
So they confront him, and Jonah just spills the beans. But listen to how he describes his God. He tells these terrified sailors that he worships the very same God who created the sea that is trying to kill them all at that moment. You can just imagine the look on their faces. Their fear just went from a 10 to 100.
But you got to give him this. Jonah owns it. He knows the storm is his fault, and he gives the sailors the only way out. He says, "You have to throw me into the sea." It's a pretty stark moment. Even though he's running from God, he's willing to sacrifice himself to save the innocent people he put in harm's way.
Now the sailors, they don't want to do it at first. They try to row back to shore, but it's totally useless. So finally, they say a quick prayer for forgiveness, and they throw Jonah into the raging water. The effect is instantaneous. The storm doesn't just die down, it stops. The raging sea becomes perfectly calm in a single moment.
But this isn't the end for Jonah, not by a long shot. In a lot of ways, this is where his real journey begins. That plunge into the deep, that's actually the start of his second chance, born out of this moment of total crisis.
Just as he's about to drown, something impossible happens. God sends a giant fish to swallow him whole. And for the next 3 days and 3 nights, the belly of that fish is his prison, a bizarre, dark sanctuary where he has nothing to do but confront what he's done.
And from inside the fish, from literally the lowest point a person can get, he prays. And it's a prayer of desperation, sure, but it's also a prayer of profound realization. He finally admits that he's hit rock bottom and that only God can save him. This is his turning point.
So after that prayer of complete surrender, his rescue is just as dramatic as his punishment was. God speaks to the fish, and it swims to the shore, and, well, it vomits him out onto dry land. Pretty gross. But hey, he's alive. The escape attempt is officially over. Time for round 2. So Jonah's back on his feet, and God gives him the exact same command all over again. Go to Nineveh. And this time, Jonah actually obeys. He heads straight for that great city to finally deliver his message.
And what a message it is. It's got to be the shortest, most blunt sermon in history. Just 5 words in the original Hebrew. He basically walks through this massive, wicked city just declaring, 40 days and you're toast.
Now the response to this message is nothing short of miraculous. The entire city, from the king on his throne all the way down to the poorest person, they believe him. Instantly, they declare a citywide fast, everyone puts on sackcloth, the king himself gets up and sits on a pile of ashes, they even put sackcloth on their animals. They're not just saying sorry, they are actively, desperately turning from their evil ways.
So what happens when this entire city has this incredible change of heart?
God sees their actions, not just their words, and he relents. The destruction that he promised doesn't happen. The city is spared. Mission accomplished, right? What a happy ending.
Well, this is where the story takes its most surprising, most bizarre turn. The prophet, who just orchestrated one of the greatest spiritual revivals in history, isn't celebrating. Oh no. In fact, he's furious.
I mean, this is the central puzzle of the whole story. Jonah's mission is a massive, unqualified success, and he absolutely hates it. He storms out of the city, finds a place to sit and sulk, and tells God he's so angry he'd rather be dead.
And now we finally learn the real reason he ran away in the first place. He basically yells at God, "I knew it. I knew you were a merciful God and that you would forgive them." Jonah never wanted Nineveh to be saved. They were his nation's brutal enemy. He wanted them to get the punishment he thought they deserved. So to teach Jonah a final lesson, God stages a little play, an object lesson. Day 1, he makes a plant sprout up overnight to give Jonah shade from the heat, and Jonah is thrilled with this little plant. But the next morning, God sends a worm that kills the plant, and then he sends a scorching desert wind. Jonah is right back to being miserable and wishing he was dead.
And this is the final lesson, the big reveal. God points out the absurdity of it all. Jonah is heartbroken over a plant that he had for all of a day and did nothing to create. And God basically asks him, you feel all this pity for a plant, but you feel nothing for an entire city of over 120,000 people? God states it plainly. You cared so much about this gourd, something that just popped up one night and was gone the next. This simple, obvious statement sets up the final challenging question of the entire book. And just like that, the story ends. It leaves us with this question just hanging in the air, for Jonah and for us. If a man can feel so much pity for a plant, shouldn't God be allowed to feel compassion for a great city filled with thousands and thousands of people? It's a profound question about the nature of mercy and who really gets to decide who deserves it.